All right, all right, all right. Welcome to another edition of the New York Power Hour. Tonight, you've got myself, you've got Ram, you've got not Jeff, aka Luke. Opening day, it says, is only 168 days away. Not too many big things happening in New York sports right now. I guess we just dive right into the New York Rangers. How did that game go last night, Luke?
Not great. Not great.
Oh, wait a
Um,
minute. Is the Yankees game over? Like, where are we at?
I think we're two outs in the bottom of ninth right now.
What are we going to talk about first? I'll let Ram decide.
Yeah, I'm dressed for the wrong show. I was ready for the Toronto Hockey Hour again, man. Like I remember that. I thought longtime viewers, or I thought they'd be really excited with hockey coming up that it would return to the Toronto Hockey Hour, but apparently some other stuff is going on in Toronto sports. But no, I mean, so let's jump into this, right? I mean, because we got to talk about it because it looks like the game is over to me now.
It's done. It's
The
final.
days
It's
of
Final,
one.
yeah.
final.
So the Yankees get like knocked out of playoffs. They don't get swept. Gentlemen sweep works out. Toronto might have been one of the worst opponents for them to run into here, just because they have like struggled with Toronto this year.
We see you, Peter. Get well, buddy.
Start spreading the news. Golly.
No, I have discovered, at least in the last week, thanks to some other baseball teams, that hate watching is very powerful. I've learned that as somebody who tried to like be a nice person and try to be nice, I spent a lot of time on Twitter, which, as we know, is a hate-filled cesspool. And I've learned that hating is actually very invigorating, brings life, virility, some other benefits that I may not be able to discuss on
It's
air.
therapeutic. Sometimes it's therapeutic.
Yeah, hating is good. And so, like, there are moments in watching the Yankees and Phillies struggle, and that's better than Cialis. I definitely think it's a very important thing to understand. But I think putting the jokes and the hate away, like, it's a tough one, because I feel like it kind of perpetuates most of the stuff that Yankees fans knew going into this, Luke. And so the idea that, for the most part, Judge did not have a remarkable postseason situation, right?
Yeah.
Cam is looking like a guy that you can count on for years. There's a positive in there, right?
Yep.
The bullpen was still kind of a question mark in certain ways, right? It's kind of like, it feels like one of those things where I guess kind of the tough discussions started to come up of, like, is Aaron Judge about to be one of the best hitters that I've ever seen in my life and that anybody's seen in their life? And is he going to have a true chance to contend for a title?
Yeah. It's a tough one. I mean, it's a tough one, and a lot of it is put on his shoulders, and a lot of it does fall on his shoulders, right? I mean, he's the best hitter in your lineup. He's the captain of your team. And, consistently year after year, he just does not put up even par performances at the plate. People were like, oh, well, he had his moment last night, right? Well, 3-run home run after, going 0 for day after, game after game, day after day. It's just kind of meh. Okay, great.
Drysdale is on an 82 goal pace now for the season, so let's go.
Is also on an 82 goal pace, Austin Matthews. But moving away from the sport that I know nothing about except Austin Matthews.
But I do want to comment real quick, though. Like you mentioned, is Aaron Judge ever going to get a real chance to compete for a title? Well, they were just in the World Series last year.
No, yeah, and I agree. I agree with that too. And it's just, the homer of me is going to come out and just say, with the Yankees, I feel like he always has a chance to be in the World Series. I mean, they're going to try to put a team around him.
I think that's fair, by the way. I don't think that's, like, I understand, yes, you're a Yankees fan, but, like, I fully agree with the idea that he's on the Yankees until he's retired. He will be given a good opportunity to be able to do it. Right. But I mean, it's not fun in New York baseball right now. I'll talk about the Mets, and I'll bitch about the Mets in a little bit too. Right. But it's just, I think it's one of those things as well. And this isn't a dig the knife in, right? But it being the Blue Jays, does it suck more? Or because, I mean, you got past the Red Sox, which was kind of in a relatively exciting fashion We have to say, right? I mean, the Red Sox series was like pretty much like the Yankees showed, so like it's a tough one here because the Jays kind of just took it to them, and they did a really good job dealing with the Yankees this year. We know that Michael Kay gave them bulletin board material and motivated them to beat the Yankees.
Yeah, I think
they talked about they openly referenced this stuff. They basically said if they're not going to win the World Series, their World Series is making Michael Kay look like an idiot. They made real sure.
If I'm going to be real here, losing to the Blue Jays doesn't upset me. And any other year it wouldn't have upset me. But now that I've met Ty and Ty's in my life and I can just see his happiness, like it frustrates me. Like that's the only thing about the Blue Jays is it's just like hearing Ty on the Discord.
Have we linked Ty? Like I want him on. I want to just talk to him and have a nice moment. We can talk about Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
No, we could not.
I love that. I love Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You want to talk about a guy who shows up in the playoffs?
That is north of the border, and I don't want to hear about it.
Then he came south of the border. There's so much going on in south of the border of the Bronx, and went ahead and homered again.
I don't need to hear. Oh, the Blue Jays, Like the Blue Jays, Vlad Guerrero, Like.
I mean, we could talk about the Maple Leafs and how they're ahead of the Rangers too. I mean, I'd love to. We can do this.
Let's go Oilers.
I will say I have a certain kindred spirit in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because that man will die before he says nice things about the Yankees, and he's a better man than me. I complimented Aaron Judge this year, like what a sinner I am. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr. legit like. That man, it's funny because he got a big contract. There were some people coming in and saying, like, oh, his ground ball rate's higher, like he's not lifting the ball. And he just turned around and said, oh, it's the Yankees, fine, I'll just jack him. I'll just start going back to like he clearly hates the Yankees and loves playing them, and I respect that. But he showed up, right? I mean, going into today, I think his average for the series was like 700. He was killing the ball. And that's like the stuff of lore that people remember, like the David Ortiz days when it was like, oh God, please don't let it be David Ortiz against like the Yankees in the big position.
Yeah, Rafael Devers, in more recent years too. Like it's
right.
Yeah. It's like LeBron James showing up at Madison Square Garden. Like
right. He's gonna put on a show. And you respect it to an extent, but it's like, God, that's annoying. That's really it. Like out of a 4-game series, he homered in 3 games. He was really good. It's tough because I also think, and here's the fair thing, as came down, and again, I'll bitch about the Mets after, but I think they had a fair shot to win the series. There's definitely, these were winnable games for the Yankees. It's not like, I mean, even in the game when they were like getting blown out for a bit, right? They stormed back. Like there were availabilities and moments that they could have, and they showed a lot of grit in certain moments. Like yesterday's game was a really strong performance up against the wall.
Yeah.
Especially considering the way it started. Right. But it's tough because I feel like one of the narratives that's going to get taken away from this is that Judge struggles in the playoffs. Yeah. And it's a tough one because I think of the fact that he is arguably one of the best offensive players I've ever seen and is going to be at least in a very, very high chance to be able to get the MVP again. Right. Yeah. If not locked up the MVP. I'm a Raleigh guy, but partially motivated by like that's just me saying the catchers don't get appreciated enough for what they do, and he put together a really, really special offensive year. Fine. But if Judge won the MVP, I wouldn't be calling it a robbery. It's logically, I understand it. So you've got a guy who continues to be the MVP over multiple years, can't do it in the playoffs, but he's the best player. Are you looking to supplement the offense with somebody like a big star? Are you thinking that the Yankees are going to just throw the empty check at Kyle Tucker as these type of things have been discussed? Or
I think it's an interesting question because you and I both know that the Yankees are going to be rumored with Kyle Tucker, right? Just like the Mets are also going to be rumored with Kyle Tucker because you can open up, both teams can open or, proverbially open up the wallet, right? I don't know if the Yankees are necessarily going to go after Kyle Tucker, right? You're going to be losing Cody Bellinger. You're going to be losing Trent Grisham. You'll still have Jason Dominguez. I don't know. I don't know where you start supplementing here. You're going to be losing Jazz. You're going to be losing Goldschmidt.
Jazz is also a free agent.
I believe he's at the end of arbitration. You guys could check.
I want to double check that one because I know the other names you mentioned are 100% right.
Yeah.
I didn't know if.
And I know, like you're going to bring back Austin Wells. You're going to bring back Ben Rice. Obviously Judge is going to be back. Stanton will be back next year. I think the highest piece of optimism for Yankees fans is you get to bring the rotation back. And it's a lot more optimistic than the beginning of this season when Garrett Cole was hurt. Was I right? Was I right about Jazz?
So Jazz and Volpe are in arbitration. So you do have them under contract next year, but you're going to have salaries. Okay. Yeah. You'll have them both for next year.
You got to replace Volpe as the starting shortstop.
Yeah. Well, we can address that at a separate time.
You just played a team that has a shortstop going to be available too. So.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if Bo's position changes as the Blue Jays advance further.
I was going to say that might be the Blue Jays advancing. I think is actually a worse thing for the Yankees because even if they get to like the World Series, just say they get past, it might be the Mariners, it could be the Tigers. It's a good series going on, right? I think it'll be the Mariners, but regardless of who it is, let's say the Blue Jays make it to the World Series on the AL side. They're a pretty tightly knit group. Like they've come up together. It might be easy for Vlad and the guys to be like, hey, let's run it back, Bo. Like, why would you leave? And it makes it harder for the Yankees if the Blue Jays are the team that eliminated them. Weirder things have happened. Johnny Damon is a piece of shit, right? Like he's done things like that. Other people have given up their manlyhood and their beards to go join the evil empire. I get it. But I don't know if it's going to happen as much in this day and age with Bo Bichette. But that would obviously be the top target. But then in that case, what happens? Do you relegate Volpe to the bench because he's still under team control? I don't think they're going to option him.
Yeah, you could. Well, no, you could. I mean, you could option him. He has plenty of minor league options, and you could send him down.
Do you think that's something they'll do?
I mean, if he's not fit to be on the team, then yeah,
I get you. I'm just saying, because I agree with the idea that, especially with the fact that he's shown talent before, I would option him and let him see what he can do in AAA and see, all right, earn your shot again, right? Yeah. But will they do that, or do you think that they might? I guess the question is more so, do you think they're going to roll out Volpe again at shortstop next year? Is there a possibility that you see that happening?
Oh, I mean, there's definitely a possibility that happens. I mean, you look at the shortstop market outside of Bo Bichette, and I'm already leaning towards Bo Bichette re-signing in Toronto. I mean, who do you have? You have Ha-Seong Kim, who played really well for the Braves at the end of the year. Ash, I mean,
is he going to opt out? I don't know.
Yeah,
he has
I don't know that he opts out. Yeah, he's got a player.
He does. I think he has a player option for this year.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
for each of the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, it was like a weird contract he originally signed, right? It was like a 2-year, 29.
Yeah. So I mean, again, outside, I think Ha-Seong Kim was the other big name at shortstop. I don't think there's anyone else that's really available in the market unless someone becomes available on the trade block. I think
trading for shortstops has been tough. The last couple of years. I mean, look at the Dodgers. They've been playing Mookie out there. So,
and Mookie ended up being the best. I think the best defensive shortstop in the NL this year, which is insane.
I'm gonna see if I can pull up Spot Rack. I was trying to pull up the shortstop so I could at least get a visual going on over here, because you are 100% right. It is not exactly a market flush with resources right now. And considering the fact that they do have team control of these guys in terms of Volpe going forward, right? I'll pull up the image here for us to take a look at as the shortstop market, because it's at least worth the discussion. So you take a look there. I mean, Trevor Story has an opt-out for $25 million. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be opting out of that.
Nope.
He did have a solid season, if we're being honest. He kind of bounced back and figured it out. But I don't see any reason why
he opted
out of that contract, because he'd opt out of the rest of it, and he's been too injury prone. So I'm working with the idea that he's not leaving that contract. And Ha-Seong Kim might stick around for $16 million. I mean,
I can't imagine him getting more than 16 million, given that he played 25% of the year. I mean, he looked great at the end of the season, but I don't see him getting more than 16 million. Roll the dice with the Braves.
Other guys would you really want? I mean,
I don't mind Willie Castro as a player. I know it says Minnesota. I think he got traded as utility guy to the Cubs right now, but he's not a bad player. I just don't think he'd be your starting shortstop. But outside
you're not going to pencil any of these guys in as the starter.
No, well, I mean, do you pencil any of these guys, over rolling the dice with Anthony Volpe?
Well, so I mean, you're not gonna replace him with any of these guys, like
right.
I mean, other than like Bo Bichette, like
right. So it just kind of goes back to my point is you don't really have any other options. You don't have options in the minors yet, and you just don't know what's available in the trade market right now. So I would say it's very likely that Anthony Volpe is going to be the starting shortstop, at least when spring training rolls around.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, and if you look at the other teams, like if you're thinking about the trade market, like if you start going through these teams that might trade a shortstop, I don't see a lot of teams that have a shortstop that would upgrade enough to pursue on teams that would be willing to trade a shortstop is what I'm trying to say. Like you're not going to go to, and I'm just throwing out, you're not going to the Cubs and getting Dansby Swanson because why would the Cubs trade Swanson?
Right, exactly.
Like if you start looking at these teams that are in situations where they need to trade away somebody, I don't. Maybe they should have gone after Carlos Correa at the deadline.
At the deadline, right, and they didn't. They didn't go after a shortstop, which I don't fault Cashman for the deadline moves. I thought the Yankees had a very strong trade deadline.
Yes.
Bednar was rough at first, but I think he really settled in towards the end of the season. Camilo Doval was fine. And I think the best part about the two of them is that you have them under contract for next year. So you supplement Devin Williams and Luke Weaver. So I really tip my cap to Cashman on those moves. It wasn't just a move for this. I mean, it was a good move for the playoffs for this year, but it was also a great move to start next season as well. So I can't fault him for the moves that he made at the deadline. And I think the starting pitching, I mean, in previous years, it's always been like, starting pitching isn't good enough for playoffs. I think the starting pitching is very good. I mean, I know the starting pitching wasn't great against Toronto, but I felt very confident about, Max Fried going game 2, Carlos Rodon going game 3, and Cam Schlittler going game 4. I mean, I think anyone would agree that those three pitchers against what the Blue Jays were putting out there for games 2, 3, and 4, we had the starting pitching advantage. We just didn't take advantage of it.
Louis Varland came in and gave up the home run to Aaron Judge last night, and he was their starter today. The Blue Jays pieced it together and continue to burn Jeff Hoffman into the ground, and they were able to do it. No, it's like it's one of those things that, again, on paper, and it's funny because Fried and Rodon struggled against the Jays. Rodon specifically, I think, as well. Like, really, Rodon has not had a strong playoff history. And it just becomes a tough thing when, like, some of these guys, and Fried, I think, got them to this point this year. Yankees obviously wouldn't be a playoff team without the efforts of Max Fried throughout this year. It's tough because there's a lot of talent in this year's roster, but I think that now, looking forward, one of the things that I think will be difficult, we joke a lot about Trent Grisham, right? But his offensive production was nothing to sneeze at this year. And if you're not able to keep Cody Bellinger, if you're not able to keep the first half of Paul Goldschmidt, because he was actually useful for a good while in the first half of the season, and Trent Grisham, where's the rest of the offensive production going to come from? Dominguez is there and Volpe stays, sure, but you're going to have to. It feels like there's going to be some holes, and I don't know where the big move comes from. I don't know if that lends itself to the Yankees pushing harder for Kyle Tucker because it's just a match-made situation. I mean, this is a guy who will probably enjoy the confines of Yankee Stadium too, and Yankees fans are willing to look past that he was once a Houston Astro if he's willing to take their money. So I'm sure that'll make you happy, right? I mean, former Houston Astro bringing glory to the Yankees, Luke. You love that, right? Because you guys love the Astros over there.
I'm trying to distance myself as much as possible from the Kyle Tucker discussion for that particular reason. And it's the same thing with Carlos. It was the same thing with Carlos Correa a couple of years ago. It's, do you hold your nose and, just accept that he's a good player, or, do you just go full scorched earth and say, I don't want these guys because they're from the Houston Astros?
I think it's got to be like a weird, Vegeta watching Goku and Frieza team up type of thing. Like, I can't imagine Aaron Judge sitting there. Like, the amount of trash talk these guys must have said about the Astros at one point or another. And then it's like, and here's your new guy, Kyle Tucker. He's going to be your savior. Like,
I don't think Kyle Tucker really fits, though. Like, I love him as a player.
In what sense? Like
where's he going to play?
Yeah. He's going to have to split. You're going to have to shift Judge over to center field.
He's going to be 34. You can't be running Judge out in center field.
Right. Ash, I totally agree with you. I mean,
unless you're trading Jaston,
would he be a boost in the lineup? Absolutely. But this is such a weird thing to say, because this has always been an issue with the Yankees. This year they had way too many lefty bats, and then you're just bringing another lefty bat into the lineup. You have Wells, you have Jazz, you have Ben Rice, you have all these, you have all these lefty hitters, Ryan McMahon, you have all these lefty hitters in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
third basemen are available on the market.
I'll bring that up for you.
I feel like if you want a power boost, that's a spot that the Yankees could probably address that, because Ryan McMahon, we have
Ryan McMahon for the next 2 seasons.
Right, but he doesn't have to be your starter.
No. Well,
he might be.
He's a decent player, but he's not bringing you a lot of thump. Like, if you need to address the lineup a little bit, I think that's the spot you do it, depending on who's available. I don't even remember you'll have Alex Bregman on the market, more than likely.
Once again, thank you to Alex Bregman, another guy that Luke must definitely love.
Yes.
Can't imagine where he came from either. But the most interesting name on here to me, obviously, is Munetaka Murakami. But Suarez being available is interesting. There's so much talk about Murakami. I feel like we're going to be talking about him a lot in this pod, like going forward, because it's whether he stays at third or just becomes a first baseman or a DH, and
is
B,
he a Dodger?
Like I hope
he's gonna be rumored. He's gonna be rumored for the Yankees and the Mets and Chicago and all this. But we all know he's gonna shine with the Dodgers. And if
he ends up with the Dodgers, I'll be mad, because I want to like him. I've loved Murakami. I love Muragod. I've enjoyed his hitting for a long time. I don't want him to go to the National League Evil Empire. I really just don't want to see the fact that if it becomes a foregone conclusion, like every Japanese free agent goes to the Dodgers, I will get pissed off. Not just because of this. I'm like, this is just, at this point, it's kind of ridiculous. And this is me being, I think, salty about like Sasaki and Yamamoto going there too, because I love both of them. And if Murakami spurned the Mets to go to the Cubs, for example, I wouldn't be as mad, because I'm like, all right, cool, it's not the Dodgers, right? But if he ends up on the Dodgers and they just fill another hole with an underpriced Japanese contract, I'm gonna be pissed, because I'm like, this is actually feels like some kind of what do you call it, tampering type of shit? You know what I mean?
There's some
the
kind of
Roki Sasaki thing was absolutely a tampering thing, or at least that's what it felt like to me. Far be it from me to make accusations about things, but it did feel really weird to me that all signs were pointing to Roki at least staying another year in Japan to get more money, and then he signs a minor league contract with the Dodgers just to come over. Now, was there obviously a lot of hush-hush about his shoulder and him potentially needing surgery and stuff like that? Murky situation, sure. But it felt weird, right? With Murakami, his numbers have declined a little bit, but he's still, as you can see, are not.
He kind of bounced back this season. If you'd have asked me this time last year, I was starting to get worried about him. In fact, I dropped him in one of my fantasy leagues last off season because he had 2 straight years of decline.
Right, but he looked.
But this year, he kind of bounced
still there again. This is a guy that could actually come over and be the rare power bat from overseas, because we've seen even guys like Jung Ho Lee from overseas that kind of just become contact hitter. Ha-Seong Kim, even, they're not necessarily high power guys. Murakami was always rumored to be a slugger, a legitimate.
And he looked great in the WBC a couple years ago.
He absolutely did. He absolutely did.
A sleeper on there, I think, is Yohan Moncada. He actually had a pretty good year. He was hurt off and on throughout the season, and that's kind of plagued him a lot over the last few seasons. But Moncada was over an 800 OPS this year. Like,
yeah, I don't know. That's just the story with him, right? It's like he's always hurt, like.
Well, then you've got to piece it together with guys like Stanton and, guys that like you can't count on those guys to play full season.
Exactly. I can't believe Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is like 30.5, by the way. He showed up on the other, the shortstop list too, because he plays every position in the infield. And I feel like I've been hearing his name for such a long time. He's already had a cup of coffee with the Yankees, the Jays.
There's no way the Yankees are bringing
They're not taking him, but I just think it's funny that IKF is much younger than I thought he was. But no, the Murakami thing, I think it'll be interesting, and if whether the Mariners or not open the wallet for him, because you've got Suarez coming off. He's done okay for them. Like, he's come up and done somewhat of his job. He's still got some power. That might be a guy they want to retain, depending on how far they go. Murakami might be a guy they go after as a splash free agent if they make it to the World Series and win or lose. Depending on how far the Mariners go, it might be something they finally open up the wallet for. I
feel like Bregman's a perfect fit if he opts out of that deal, which I believe that he's going to.
Oh, he has to. He has to.
I think Bregman. I do think Bregman opts out of his deal compared to Story, but I don't know if the Yankees are going to. I mean,
Luke, how wouldn't they? He's a great glove, good Luke, bat.
Bregman and Tucker are the Yankees' acquisitions for the summer.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know it's not fun because I know you specifically also really hate the Astros, so I think it's kind of funny that the discussion points for the Yankees have got to be Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman.
I might need some time for reflection before I give my opinions on that.
Yeah, you got a whole offseason. Toronto sent you guys to Cancun too.
Yeah.
And, the worst part about it is that like the Mets and the Red Sox are already in Cancun. So like all the fun things to do and all the places that the Yankees want to go to are already tainted by the Mets and the Red Sox. Like Aaron Judge is going to be wanting to go to like find some nice things to do down there in Cancun. Juan Soto's already in Cancun. And emotionally it's just going to hurt him because he doesn't have his buddy anymore.
I just don't get it with you. Like, I don't understand how you can turn the Mets not making the playoffs and the Yankees making the playoffs a positive thing for the Mets and a negative thing for the Yankees. Like, y'all didn't make the playoffs. Like, let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about the meltdown of the New York Mets over the second half of the season. Like,
absolutely.
What happened? Like, tell me what happened. What happened in the second half of the year?
So the fact that they we didn't get to really discuss this. Peter and I got to talk a little bit about it going into like our little scorecards for the Mets, right? Yeah. And they have cleaned house. Right, they kept Mendoza and they kept Antoine Richardson, which makes sense in the Antoine Richardson case because apparently the Mets can steal bases and he has some kind of secret magic. Love that he has that. So I like that he got to stay because the Mets, I think, weren't caught stealing a base since like June. It is actually annoying to me when I think about these things that like they were so good in certain ways that like if you're telling me a team with the offensive capacity of the New York Mets didn't get caught stealing a base as well for the last like 3.5 months of the season, I'd automatically be like, oh, that's a playoff team, right? Like that has to be a playoff team. There's no way. All right. So they definitely needed new voices in the room. And this is me liking Jeremy Hefner, but also having to be objective about the fact that the pitching was really bad throughout the second half of the season. Now, did some things work against them? Like Griffin Canning was looking like he was going to be a mainstay in the rotation throughout the year. Did him going down early with an Achilles suck? Yes. Did AJ Minter going down early with an injury suck? Yes, because he looked like he was going to be a good setup man. But Brooks Raley picked up the mantle pretty good. Losing out of the playoffs by one game because they tied going in, which is there's so many losses that the Mets had in terms of bullpen meltdowns. And I think there's a stat for that. I don't have the bullpen meltdown stat in front of me, but there is something about the fact, like the amount of runs the bullpen allowed, and the Mets were, I think, the worst in the league in that regard. And it partially, so this is where I can place some blame on Stearns, and I did last week. We did a really good job of finding value in some players that we may not have been able to find value in otherwise. Like Max Kranick was useful, Huskar Brosman was useful at certain points, right? But at what point does the dumpster diving for a $300 million team, like this, the payroll that this team has, you shouldn't be dumpster diving for the bullpen. You need to actually get some more stalwarts in there. And the starting rotation, I acknowledge from my understanding that they went ahead and they did what they did in terms of piecing this year together because they had so much faith in these young guys going forward that they think, okay, McLean's definitely going to be in the rotation this next year. You know, Senga might be traded supposedly. I don't really know if I believe that to be a thing because I just don't see the Stearns being the guy that trades somebody when their value is lowest. It just doesn't line up with the way that he operates to me. Like, I don't really think that that's the thing where they're just going to salary dump off Kodai Senga. So I assume he'll be in there too. But I like the firing of the coaches. I also like the keeping of Mendoza. I talked about this last week that the year before, if one could argue that the Mets overachieved because they were still figuring some things out and they had a small playoff run, they had some good life and vibes, sure. Mendoza was a key part of that. There was no complaints about Mendoza 1 year ago. And I don't believe that one relatively bad collapse is enough to cost you your job right off the bat. Now, is he under fire going into the year? Like, is he on thin ice? 100%. Yeah. There's no question that, I mean, the bare minimum for this year for the Mets after acquiring Juan Soto was making the playoffs. The bare minimum. Right. And one might argue, even though I don't think I made this argument going into the season, but one might argue the bare minimum was supposed to be winning the division. And so this season is nothing really but an abject failure on a lot of accounts because, I mean, there's just no way to sugarcoat that. This is supposed to be a team that should have won the division, at bare minimum should have made, especially with this expanded stupid playoff format, they should have made the last wild card. You know, like they should have been the 19th wild card team or whatever it is, how many teams make the playoffs now. And so the fact that, you know, half the league is getting in and they didn't get in. And then I laughed because the Reds got in front of us and promptly decided to be ass. I was like, great job, Cincinnati. Like, go in there. Like, yeah, your guns a-blazing on the last day. We made the playoffs. And then we're like, did you do too much cocaine the night of the celebrate? Like, what? That was a horrible performance. And so it's one of those things where, like, Luke, you made the joke of, like, how can I turn it into a good thing? It's like, well, the Reds made it in over us, and they got steamrolled. The Phillies are there above the division, but they're choking yet again. The Yankees on the other side of town couldn't handle the spotlight. So you kind of sit there and you're like, you know what? I guess it could hurt more. It could hurt more.
Hold on. No, don't start this. Don't start this. We couldn't handle the spotlight. We beat the Red Sox. We beat the Red Sox in the wild card. We came back after losing game 1. We won game 2. We won game 2.
And you lost to the big bad Toronto Blue Jays, who everyone picked to win the division in the beginning of the year. And they're great acquisitions throughout the year.
They're the best. They're the best team in the AL. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, what do you want me to say? Play the Yankees half the time. It's great. Like their record is inflated by the fact they get to play the Yankees. They get to beat up.
I don't understand how you can turn this around. Like turn this around against the Yankees. You guys didn't make the playoffs.
That's the
thing. Didn't make the playoffs.
The Mets season was an abject failure, and the Yankees found a way to make me feel better because even making the playoffs can be apparently embarrassing. Because that's the thing.
It's not embarrassing. We made the playoffs. And we won the wild card. But you want to know the best part about all of this? Is we found a guy who can pitch big games. Like, how can you tell me that's a failure? How can you tell me that's a failure that we found a young pitcher who can go
out? Let him hang out in the Yankee clubhouse long enough. Let him hang out with Aaron Judge and see how his playoff stats look next year. I'm just saying it rubs off on the guys, right?
Sure. I mean, sure. And then you know what? Take a train ride, get on the LIRR, go down to Queens, and see what losing is. And hopefully it's not infectious.
You guys gave me it's not infectious tonight in the Bronx. It was right here. You guys had the chance to come back, and you decided we'll get rolled over by Toronto on home turf, man.
Listen. At least we're playing in October. Ram. Like I don't know how else to describe this to you. We are playing games right now. Y'all
No,
are
you're
not.
not. Right now, you're going to Cancun.
You're not playing
right
games.
now, Aaron Judge is talking to Juan Soto like, "Hey, buddy, you still got room for me over there? I know we haven't talked in a while.
I know you've been on your ass for the last 2 weeks because you haven't been playing baseball because your team got knocked out and had the worst second half of any fucking season ever. Like,
put a third team in New York.
It's such a sad time for New York baseball though, because like I don't think there was any reason there's no reason the Mets shouldn't have made the playoffs. They absolutely screwed that up, right? And the Yankees, I think, just got a tough draw on the fact that Toronto seems to have their number this year, because I do think if there was like a different scenario where like the Yankees were playing the Tigers, for example, somehow, I think the Yankees could knock the Tigers out of the playoffs, right? And they did beat the Red Sox to their credit, which is a tough series because y'all hate the Red Sox, right? So like, obviously, it's one of those things that it's fun to get through that. I mean, like, I'm still, if the Phillies choke again, it's hilarious because then Mets fans will
Everybody hates the Phillies, so it's always funny when they lose.
It's one of those things that's kind of amusing because they couldn't, after winning the division last year, they couldn't get past the Mets. And all I've been hearing this week is that people need to check like Dodger Stadium for like if there's like parabolic mics or anything like that, and if the Dodgers are cheating, because like Phillies can't hit there either. You know, like we're seeing an era of like hot teams are figuring it out, and like even the Brewers, I mean, have been able to at least figure things out considering the way they were like the hottest team in the middle. But they're no guarantee that they're going to finish up winning their series either. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know because if we're talking about the Mets, man, of course I'm not happy, right? I mean, there was so much that absolutely just sucked. I mean, Ryan Helsley alone, I feel like acquiring Ryan Helsley alone was like a playoff losing move. And on paper, it made a lot of sense.
It was everyone, applauded the move there for getting Ryan Helsley. Like that was a great move by the Mets, and he was garbage.
Absolutely, he alone. Like he alone actually, yeah. Like, and Ryan Helsley alone, and this is like, yes, obviously it's a long season, 162 games. We could point at one, but like in a microcosm, Ryan Helsley alone actually cost the Mets the playoffs, right? Especially the positions they put him in. There's a lot of things that I think there were so many games that the Mets. If I can find the bullpen meltdown stat, I'll find it. But
while you're looking for the stat, and I know we've spent about 40 minutes talking about baseball. I know there's some other sports that are going on in New York, and definitely want to get to those. But and I'll kind of spare you the difficulties with the Mets. But I will give you an emotional question here, which is, do you think Pete Alonso plays for the Mets next year?
I do, and I'm actually I'm not worried about it. I know that a lot of people are. I feel like the crossroads of like Steve Cohen understanding what Pete Alonso means to the Mets and his fans. Cohen is nothing if not like very in tune with what the fans are saying, good and bad. Like he knows that they care. Pete Alonso is now the all-time home run record holder for the Mets. And it's not a very high number overall, but it's a special number for the Mets because he holds the all-time record. He is in decline and his position is not exactly one that is in big need. Like, people are not losing their minds over a average defending first baseman with a power trait that, if that's his most defining characteristic, will naturally decline as he gets older. But I just don't see a world where somebody offers Pete Alonso a contract that's so big that the Mets wouldn't even match it, or that Pete wouldn't come back to the Mets to match it. I do think that would be hard to swallow. Like, that would suck. I'd feel pretty bad about it. But I feel like they both understand Pete wants to be here. The Mets want him to be here. I think there can be a deal made. What I am willing to say is that it probably won't be a deal that I'm necessarily going to be like, wow, what a steal for Pete Alonso, right? They're probably going to have to overpay after the year that he just had. He again showed that the power is there and he can contribute. So I'm okay with overpaying because, at least for now, we don't have a salary cap in baseball. I don't know what the future is going to look like of these negotiations. There's a lot of talk and a lot of bullshit. I don't know if we're going to miss a year or anything like that. That's a big issue that I am both worried about and not looking forward to, because any teams that are in a position like to compete right now, the Yankees are in the same thing. I mean, if you lose a full year of baseball, Garrett Cole and Eric Judge are not getting younger. And it's the same thing on the Mets side. Like, you sign Juan Soto to be here for this many years. You lose a prime year of Juan Soto. You lose an 8. Lindor gets a little bit closer to the wrong side of 30 type of thing. Like, it's any kind of missed baseball could really, really hurt these teams. And a salary cap would not be fun for them either. So I'm back and forth on how I feel about the lockout stuff. I'm just really hoping it doesn't happen. But I don't know if that's going to affect any of the contracts this offseason is what I'm leading into. Like, are they going to say, hey, screw it, we're going to do this because we're not worried about this year. It's fine.
They're going to spend.
Yeah, like I think they
I mean,
will.
You mentioned Tucker. I think Tucker would fit in that lineup so damn well.
I agree just because on
I could see Bo Bichette playing second base for the Mets next year.
I don't know how much they're going to balance between spending and the prospects they like, right? Like Carson Bench, Jet Williams, guys that they like are expected to play like some second base, to play some center field, right?
I think this year showed that like you can't always count on prospects because like what did Vientos do for you?
I mean, no, 100%. Like you can never count on the prospects, right? But
if you're wanting to win a World Series, like you can't just assume that those guys are going to come up and not miss a beat. I mean, look at Jackson Holiday for the Orioles. Like he's
right.
Below league
a lot of the Orioles overall because they had such an amazing prospect core, and Gunnar can still swing the bat, but like they're still kind of in the same place they were before. And yet again, with all that prospect talk, and even me believing in them, I thought the Orioles were going to make a good run this year. They were still overshadowed by the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, apparently. So, right, I mean, like it's kind of crazy to think about that, right? Because they had so much talent on paper of super prospects. So, like we know it's not going to work, but I think it's also a balance of like, where do they like? I think Jeff McNeil might have seen his last game as a Met because he might be aging himself out of a situation where they don't necessarily want him the way that they wanted him before. They don't have a concrete answer at second. They don't have a concrete answer at center field. I do anticipate that they will address one of them like in the free agent market, but I don't know if they'll address both. I don't know with what wallet amount Stearns is going to work with. I know Cohen has the money, but it's not like he bought everybody in the offseason. It's just not logistically viable. So maybe they address second base and not center field, and they let Benj out there. I don't know where the split is going to be. I'll probably be calmer as we try to figure out like what they're going to do. What I will say, I was going to point this out earlier. The headlines that I'm seeing right now are driving me nuts. Like Newsweek, I'm going to call them out because I think they're stupid. I got a headline notification today that says Mets lose former world champion to free agency. And I'm like, all right, this is an outstanding clickbait headline. I now need to know what former world champion did the Mets lose to free agency today, right? And I could give you 4 guesses. You wouldn't get it. I say this with confidence. The former world champion that they wrote the whole argument about, the whole article about for the Mets losing is Wander Suero. Yeah. I just want to take a moment to I was probably going to mention it later on.
That is like prime clickbait.
I was going to mention it later on, but now that we're talking, like the headlines are going to drive me nuts, man. Because Luke, you alluded to this too. The Yankees and Mets are going to be linked to just about every free agent with a pulse, and I get so tired of it now. Like I don't know how you dealt with this for so long, and I say that with love because of the fact that like you guys have had money for a long time, and right, Peter's the best. Like that guy didn't even make Peter's scorecards, right? But Newsweek, the headline was, and I will prove it later on during my final point because if anybody thinks I'm crazy, I want them to know how stupidly I think that their clickbait sensationalism headlines are, and I think that's not something that I should respect. But yeah, it's going to be an offseason where they get linked to every goddamn name. I mean, the Mets and Yankees are both going to be linked to Bichette because Ash is not wrong in the idea that somebody's going to sit there and say, hey, the Mets should try to get Bichette to play second base, right? He probably doesn't want to. He probably wants to play shortstop for better value. But, I mean, he's played.
Yeah, but if he gets a 10-year deal or an 8-year deal or something, like, I mean, this is his big contract here.
I don't know if they want to do it because of the fact that there is some talk that the Mets might eventually plan to move Lindor off shortstop to like
which you
second
might
base.
have to start thinking about.
Right. So, like, if the Mets move him off shortstop to second base, I don't think it'll be this season, but it's probably going to be something that happens down the line. If that happens, you might see them look to get a replacement for shortstop sooner rather than later. But then Bichette runs on that same timeline, so it wouldn't necessarily help.
Could also be a figure it out later thing too.
They have prospects.
The other thing that it would do if you got Bichette is it hurts other title contending teams. So not only does it improve your lineup, but then you also hurt other teams.
Well, yeah, somebody could end up signing with the Angels or the Athletics. I mean, some guys sign with the Athletics as they want to like go ahead and So he asked me to forget about Jet. No, I spoke about Jet and Benj actually like 2 minutes ago. I'm glad you're awake now and listening. But I spoke about Jet a moment ago when I talked about him and Benj. Is Trent a free agent? I don't know if he's actually
he is
screwing around, but yes, Trent Grisham is a free agent, as is Cody Bellinger, as is Paul Goldschmidt. So like that's going on across town there. So it's gonna be. We'll see what happens. I think the Yankees will actually make an effort to re-sign Trent Grisham. He clearly likes it here. He clearly likes being at the Yankees. So I feel like they'll make that move. But yeah, I anticipate the Mets making a significant bullpen move. I was looking up the bullpen meltdown stats, and there's some stuff from TJ Stats that is a little bit outdated, so I'm not going to use it. But going into mid-September, the Mets were one of the worst teams in bullpen meltdowns because their guys were just coming in. And now part of that is a volume thing, I will say, because their starters, like even when Clay Holmes had a good start, he was going about 5 innings. So we did have to touch the bullpen a lot. That being said, I talked about this last week when I was talking about the Mets and like what's going on there. So
they should. They absolutely should, and he should start in center field for them.
I don't want that at all. Like I really don't want any of that.
I think Trent Grisham is a great fit in Atlanta. I think he do great things for the Atlanta Braves. But they might end up being a playoff team if Trent Grisham signs with them.
Well, look, to move off the baseball stuff for a bit, I will give you a smaller detailed answer to what you were asking before, Luke, about like what went wrong, right? I'll show you something that I talked about last week, right? So this isn't even the full list. The Mets broke the record for the amount of pitchers used in the MLB season this year. And that's part of it, right? I think they used like 46 or something like that, which was the worst. So the most pitchers that were used in the MLB season ever, which is, it sucks, right? But the reason I have this organized by innings is the discussion I was having with Peter last week, is that part of this season being an abject failure, why I don't necessarily get mad at anyone in particular, is Griffin Canning at the end of the year was the 4th most innings pitched for this Mets team. So like it's a weird situation for me where, I mean, our starting rotation was essentially, if you look at this paper, our starting rotation was David Peterson, Clay Holmes, Kodai Senga, Griffin Canning, and Tyler McGill, right? Clay Holmes was a few innings off being our most innings pitched in the entirety of the year. None of that is a recipe for success. Right, and so
Brosipon, hold on, if I'm looking at this right, Brosipon had the 7th most innings.
That's 63. He was barely behind Edwin Diaz. So, like, for me, if I want to give you an honest answer, because I could go down to the other 20, but it's just a few innings here and there, and it's for the sake of the record, right? But if you look at these 20, like, looking at this is what explains the Mets season and why it didn't work. This was a team that had incredible offensive capacity and capability, and they were able to put things together. But everything that you need to know is on this screen. I mean, Ryan Helsley came in 20. I mean, he had, and this is B-WAR, but he essentially had a negative WAR one game on his own in 22 games. Right? I mean, he negated. Frankie Montas, of course, came back, was ineffective. I mean, there's just so much here. Paul Blackburn was not good for us. I know you guys love Paul Blackburn over there. in Yankee land, right?
He's
So
really great. He's really great at eating up innings.
Very effective. Still 19th most for us only. But you point out who scored Braziban. I'm like, that stuff, Matt, like 63 innings, 7th most for the Mets this year. Like, when you expected guys like Garrett to be real contributors, Stanek to be contributors here, right? Because of past performances, even Manaea, of course.
Right.
This is the image that tells the story as to why the Mets didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah. And I don't know. I kind of rebut your comments and Ash's comments about going after Tucker, going after Bichette. Those aren't the guys that you need. And you said it before. The offense is fine, right? You know, the focus is on let's get Pete back, right? Let's make sure.
Agreed. I agree with that.
Let's make sure Pete is back. Make sure we have our cleanup hitter. But y'all gotta address the starting pitching, and y'all gotta address the 7th and 8th inning. You got the 9th inning locked up. You got Edwin Diaz, right? You know it's going to be scary as hell when he walks out on the out on the mound in the 9th. He's going to walk 3 guys and then strike out 3 guys and give you the scariest ride of your life. But he's going to close out the game for you, right? You need to find people to fill these pitchers to fill the gaps in this rotation. Right, you feel good about McLean. You feel good about Tong. Who else? Who else do you feel good about? I mean, David Peterson, great. Who's gonna be your 4th guy? Who's gonna be your 5th guy? Who's your 6th guy when one of these guys gets hurt? Because that's what happens. That's what happens throughout a season. You need 7 starting pitchers. You need 7 starting pitchers that you can look at the beginning of the season and either they're down in AAA or they're starting as a middle reliever. And then can plug in, because you need that depth, and that's what you were missing this year. Or you had that depth, but that depth was not functional enough for this team to be productive, right? Frankie Montes does not work. Sean Manaea with the injury issues does not work. Clay Holmes, who had never started before, does not work. Griffin Canning. And again, I know Griffin Canning had a freak injury, but Griffin Canning did not show the propensity to be a frontline starter for a team, right? So it's like you said before. Why are you going into the dumpster for all of these players?
No, I'll rebut you on Clay Holmes, because I know that you want him to die, but like he's
no, I don't. I don't want.
He was effective though. Look, you can see the numbers. He
absolutely is. He absolutely is. But what he does is set up your bullpen for failure throughout the season. If he's only getting you 4 or 5 innings week after week, that is going to weaken your bullpen.
I gotta be real with you though. I got to be real with you. That's going to be a pretty normal thing going forward for a lot of guys that aren't Clay Holmes. You know that there's a lot of guys that are only going to give you 5 effective innings, and the game is played that way now.
Absolutely. But when you have 4 or 5 guys in your rotation that are doing that, that's when it becomes, that is your problem.
And you're 100% right about the depth issue too, right? Because like we rolled the dice, and this is a we as in the Stearns insult here, right? Too much on guys that like all of our depth was hopeful that they ended up having to be main plans. Our backup plans had to be main plans. And the guys that we invested in, like Montes, like Blackburn, Hagenman, and they were not really effective, and they cost us games. Montes cost us games on his own. Montes could have been the reason we lost and didn't make the playoffs, right? And Blackburn, he only pitched in 7 games, but he was in effect, like, granted, I'm not targeting any one of them specifically, as I shouldn't be, right? But all of these things worked out negatively. And Griffin Canning, to your point, I mean, was he effective for a bit? Yeah, but that was like, oh my God, we were happy for that. We weren't expecting Griffin Canning, and Kodai Senga got hurt. We know he's made of glass, but we need backup plans for stuff like that. So going into the rotation next year, I mean, I expect David Peterson to kind of be the traditional 3, the crafty lefty that breaks up like the rotation, and it's going to work that way, and that's fine, right? Kodai Senga, I think, will be healthy. So you've got these guys that will return a little bit. You've got Sproat, you've got McLean, and I think that Tong will probably start in AAA, because he looked like he needed a little more seasoning, and I'm okay with that. because he can be the guy that you go to earlier than when you're eventually inevitably going to need that depth, right? So I think they'll get there, but
no, I think
we'll
I think the focus needs to be on the pitching, right? Talking about Bo Bichette, talking about Tucker, that's fine, but I'm going to say this, and I know this upsets you and Peter. Getting Juan Soto was not the thing to do to get you into the playoffs. You needed other pieces to make that team good, and you guys were deficient in other places.
Well, that's an outright wrong comment, but like you can do that. Listen, I've talked about this so many times on air. The Mets are not supposed to be building a one and done situation. They are supposed to be building a long-term contender. So adding Juan Soto made sense because the great thing about it is that he's going to be here next year too.
It made absolute sense. But you still had, we talked about this. I mean, we talked about this during spring training. There were still holes in the roster that weren't addressed after Juan Soto was signed.
Right.
You had holes in the rotation. You had holes in the back end of the lineup. You had holes in the bullpen. None of that got addressed.
Right, but
those are the reasons why your team didn't make the playoffs.
Agree, but I'm calm about it in the sense that look, they gambled on the starting pitching, it didn't work out. I'm more mad about the bullpen stuff. I'm open about it. I opened up talking about it before because I felt like they were too comfortable going with, okay, we had decent results from these guys. We'll run them out there again, right? I feel like I'd be lying if I knew the rotation was going to be a deficit, but I had a lot of faith in Sean Manaea. And I looked at Clay Holmes as nothing more than a 5. He outperformed whatever I expected from him. Yes. I thought Senga would be fine. I thought Peterson would be fine. And I knew one of the younger guys would be up at some point in the year. So I wasn't panicked. I didn't expect it to be like, oh my God, we're going to have the best rotation in the world, right? But I thought we could get by with the pieces they put together. And I was wrong about that, right? So in terms of the starting pitching. And the bullpen was the one that I'm like, I'm hopeful for a little more. They never got it. When they did, it was too late. And some of the guys that got like Helsley were just an abject wrong move, right? So now for me this offseason, I do, and this part I agree with you, I expect the conversation to be a lot more pitching focused. I do expect them to sit there and say, even though we saw reasons for hope from like McLean and Sproat and Tong too, and I just think he needs a little more seasoning. I like Tong a lot as well. I think that we're going to get there to the point where they're going to target pitching. And this is unfortunately why Hefner was let go. As much as I like him, and I do think he's a good pitching coach, and he'll easily resurface with another team, you look at the numbers here. I mean, everything that they gambled on, they brought back Senga after injury. He couldn't do it. They brought back Manaea injured. Was he pitching injured? According to reports, yes. Clearly couldn't figure it out again, right? Guys like Stanek couldn't bring it back. Everyone kind of regressed. Buto regressed, right? Montes was ass. And yes, Kranick was good before he got hurt, or at least effective, but there was nothing here like that made it seem like, okay, Jeremy Hefner is guaranteed another year. That's the tough part, because even David Peterson had a rough second half, and part of that was because of the fact that he probably, a little arm fatigue, like the most innings ever pitched. I expect him to be kind of I'm not going to say as effective as it was in like the first month, but like 4.22 this year, probably more like a 3.5, 3.6 next year, something like that. I think he'll be fine. But there's nothing even on this screen outside of the maybe Griffin Canning's bit where he was successful for a bit that says, oh yeah, Jeremy Hefner guaranteed himself another year. Because the minors guys came up and they were expected to do, I mean, McLean was kind of a godsend in his way, but his development was taken care of mainly away from the Mets. So at the end of the day, I mean, it doesn't look like there was much for like Hefner to, I guess, like kind of hang his hat on. And that's the difficulty but that answers the question on the Mets side, if I'm being honest, as to like what went wrong. And we have, the primary conversation has to be the pitching. And the bullpen has to be addressed with, in the same way that the Yankees kind of got some guys that'll be there next year too, and they're going to be solid bullpen guys. You want a Bednar, Duvall, and Devin Williams in there next year. Is Williams also a free agent, or
he's gone? He's gone. He's a free agent.
It was just this year, right? So like, but you have Bednar and Duvall to stay next year.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean that works out in that sense, and Luke Weaver is still there at the moment.
Bye-bye.
He's also gone.
See ya. This is not a Luke Weaver podcast anymore. I want to make that very clear to everyone that this is.
So we're saying Ryan Helsley will be in the Bronx next summer.
I don't know what Ron House is. I think he just needs to go to a low leverage place and figure it out. Like the Angels should pick him up because they're not bad, and just like take him and let him be their closer, and everyone will be happy. The low leverage stuff. But we're just about hitting the hour here. Is there anything you guys want to touch on before we start wrapping up? Because there was football, there was hockey. I mean, I know Ash wants to go really badly watch hockey. I don't know if we just kick him out and talk about Giants and Jets.
I do think we need to address the New York Rangers. I mean, last night was not a very good performance offensively from that squad. I will say, if you want to talk about a bright spot, Igor Shesterkin was awesome.
Phenomenal. I
mean, he was great.
Worth every penny.
Not much else. I don't know what else you thought, Luke, about that game.
No, the offense looked just completely anemic. The defense was Swiss cheese. I know we were talking about it before the show. I was, watching the game. It was almost like the Penguins were just kind of living in between the two circles, just always down in the low slot, high leverage chances down low. It seemed like they were almost in the blue paint too, which was insane. And the Rangers couldn't generate high pressure situations either on seal-offs. So yeah, I don't know. And I feel like I said this a couple of weeks ago. This roster doesn't really give me a lot of hope for a Stanley Cup run. You look at previous years and you look at the third line and you're like, wow, this third line could match up with first lines on other teams. And I don't even feel that way about our first line right now. And it's not because they traded away Chris Kreider. It's not because of the trades that they've made. This team's just kind of phased out, and there hasn't been a lot of adjustments. And again, it's what Chris Drury did a couple of years ago, signing guys to long-term contracts. You're stuck with them. I mean, you're really stuck with these guys unless you move them, and you're not moving them for much because you have them on long-term contracts. So. Yeah, I don't know with the Rangers this year. Maybe I'll give the caveat that Panarin and Miller didn't play in a lot of preseason games, so maybe they just need some time to connect and they'll figure it out. But that's probably the only hope I have for the offense right now.
Yeah, it just blows me away because it's just a season removed from the President's Cup. How? This is such a fall, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's a crazy fall, and again, hopefully.
I agree with this. By the way, he was the bright spot in the game. We can be real.
He absolutely was.
He only allowed the one goal, even though he was essentially. I think he contended like 30 shots, right? It might have been 29, but he was.
I think he was 29 for 30. Was he not?
Yeah, 29 for 30 because it was just the one goal allowed on his watch outside of the empty net stuff, but He tries. And I mean, this is kind of the goal for Igor, right? The idea that like he was going to develop into this type of goalie. That's why they wanted him here. So he looked good. But I think it's just as not a big hockey watcher person. It felt like one of those things where like the onslaught of the offense of the Penguins was just very easy, as Luke was alluding to, that they kind of had their way on the ice.
This was a non-playoff team last year, the Penguins. So
right. They had their way.
It wasn't like the Penguins were out possessing the Rangers either. It just felt like whenever the Penguins were in the offensive zone, they were again in high pressure, high leverage situations, in the low slot, creating really good chances. And whenever the Rangers were in the offensive zone, it was okay. Well, we're going to kind of move the puck around outside the slot and then take a shot from outside the slot, and that'll be sufficient for us. Like there wasn't good movement to start.
Yeah, I think you alluded to something that was pretty accurate for me is the idea of the quality of the shots. 31 to 25 doesn't seem like a significant disparity, but the quality of the shots the Penguins were getting at the goal were just better, right? It did feel like, and that was a situation that, as you said, like face-off win percentage close enough. Like they were not necessarily dominating the puck control in the sense of, and you can see their penalty minutes not that significant either. So it's not like one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, you can just point to that and that happened, but.
Yeah, face-offs won. Penguins are usually going to get that edge with Sidney Crosby. So the fact that it was 52-47 is a lot closer than I would think it was. And that was also a strength of the Rangers 2 years ago was how good they were in the face-off dot. So hopefully they can try and replicate that again. And the power play. I mean, I didn't realize how bad the power play was last year. I think we were 28th in the NHL in power play. And in the years where we were making the playoffs and making runs towards the Stanley Cup, it was top five in the power play. I was thinking about this yesterday too. I'm not going to criticize Chris Drury for trading Kreider. I think it was the right move given his age and, trying to give yourself a little bit more roster flexibility. But the power play does look a lot different without Chris Kreider on it, especially because he was such a presence in the front of the net. And teams would have to actually drift towards him in order to stop his deflection ability. So it sort of changes the dynamic of the power play. So that'll be something I'll be taking note of on the power play this year. And it'll be interesting how Mike Sullivan, tries to reinvigorate this team, right? This is his first season with the Rangers. So maybe there's just kind of an adjustment to his system as well. But at least everything I've heard from hockey players, the systems are pretty replicable, from team to team. Like when they talk about guys getting traded at the deadline, like you can pick it up pretty quick. So I don't really know if that's an excuse for the Rangers not playing well in game one.
And so who picked up Kreider's line minutes? Who was the direct replacement?
It's probably Will Cooley who's picking it up. I'd have to look specifically, but I think Cooley moved up to the second line. I think he's picking it up. I mean, it's well deserved. He had a very good season last year. So we'll see who ends up kind of filling his role.
That'd be interesting. I mean, that's just we'll see. I think it was also just at the end of the day, you just don't want to open the season like this. Like this isn't some lead into the Leafs and winning and stuff like that. It's the idea of this was a game where I think betting wise the Rangers were close to minus 200 favorites going in, if not minus 220. And so it felt like they were supposed to just take care of the Penguins. So the idea of them not scoring a single goal just feels like a lackluster way to start the season. And this is considering the fact that they moved Kreider. There were still thoughts that this team could still perform well, but we'll see. It's one game. It's one hockey game. There'll be more to talk about by the time next week rolls around instead of just the one, and we'll have a little bit more of an idea of what's going to go on with the Rangers, but at least it's just not the start that they wanted. I want to ask you, I was laughing because I saw somebody say that they thought the Devils were going to win the Cup this year, and I had a much more, I would say, advanced hockey person in my life tell me that they believe the Avalanche have a really good shot this year. Yeah. Who do you think does damage towards the Stanley Cup this year? Who do you think is going to be making a good run? If you had to give me a name right now,
probably Vegas. It's probably Vegas, and you're
Vegas again. Vegas Golden Knights again, and
we're going to be so mad about that. Yeah, but I think Vegas is built to win. I know you don't like them, but I really credit them so much for continually investing.
I refuse to watch them because I can't. I look in the wrong jersey. It'll hurt.
I love that they're a mid-market team that continues to invest in high-profile players. Continually trying to stretch the cap out as much as possible and be competitive every single year since they've started as a franchise. When a lot of people believed in that first year that they weren't even going to win a single game with the roster that they had. I have a ton of respect for what they're doing in Vegas.
They won't even make the conference finals.
I don't know. We'll see. I know that's tough for you to hear too. Edmonton has a great team as well. But
they're currently down to the Kings.
I know, and the Oilers are winning. The Oilers are winning 3-1 right now.
The Los Angeles Kings, by the way, I've heard is having a singles awareness night over in LA Kings, otherwise known as Kings Twitter night. So I think that's a fun thing going on for LA Kings fans. But yes, the Golden Knights are down right now. I don't want to necessarily look because I literally do not want to see Marner in another jersey. It will hurt me. So. I'm hoping he hasn't scored a goal because then it'll hurt more. But no, we'll see. We'll get more talk about it. I know that Peter will also chime in on the Ranger stuff going forward too because it'll be fun. Do I dare ask you, not now, but like, do I dare ask you guys in the future to talk Islanders or Devils, or are you going to continue to pretend like those teams don't exist?
I watch a lot of Devils, but I mean, the problem with the Islanders is they play just such a boring style.
Yeah.
I thought the problem with the Islanders is that they suck. I got to be honest. I didn't know
that too.
But they also play a boring brand of hockey. Like,
get someone exciting. You know, they drafted a defenseman. Like, come on, guys. Like, what are we doing here? Like,
God help me. Well, I mean, it's not like there's much going on the football side, folks. The Giants debuted Jackson Dart, who looked good and couldn't get past my team, the Saints, which is hilarious because that should be the end of a quarterback's career, honestly. But he's still going to get to start next week. And the Jets continue to be exactly what we thought they were going to be. Justin Fields is entertaining, but they still haven't won a goddamn game, and they're still one of the most penalized teams in the league, which is amazing because Aaron Glenn, I think, is doing his best, but Jesus Christ, man, the Jets are finding new creative ways to lose. Very special talent they have for finding ways to lose. I guess right now, I believe they are the Jets are the only team that is 0-5 for a new coach, and like Aaron Glenn's the only one who's been 0-5 to start his Jets tenure. Even Adam Gase, who I think is one of the worst coaches in the history of coaching, have managed to squeak out a win. So it's not fun in football land right now. I do give Jackson Dart credit, but the problem is that Malik Neighbors is out for the season for the Giants, so there's not much hope at MetLife for more than like 5 wins combined between the two teams. The Jets, I believe, are facing the Broncos this weekend in London, so that's going to be an interesting game because of the fact that it's going to be 9:30 in the morning, and it forces me to set my fantasy football lineups way too early in the day as somebody who works night shifts. So to that, I appreciate the NFL doing
set them
things.
At night.
I do. I had something like 5:30 in the morning, but then like I don't know if you know, Ash, like a week before, they announced that Jaylen Warren was going to be out like at like 9 a.m. And so Kenneth Gainwell came in as the backup and started, and he ran for like nearly 200 and like multiple TDs. And so a lot of people were screwed up because, like me, they don't see a reason to get up at that early in the morning. It just doesn't make sense. So, you know, screw the NFL for doing that. But I like that they're doing games overseas, actually. So we'll have more to complain about next week. The good thing for anyone who's watching us who doesn't want us to talk about baseball is that, well, we won't have much baseball to talk about after this one because the Yankees and Mets are both going to be in Cancun, and Juan Soto and Aaron Judge are going to be hanging out in the saunas once again, sharing some time. So at least we have that to enjoy.
When do we get the Knicks preseason starting?
Yeah, it is started. The Knicks were over in fabled Saudi Arabia playing some games over there in Abu Dhabi, you know, killing it for the Abu Dhabi fans because they get to see the Knicks before we get to see the Knicks. That was something. I'm not going to comment on that politically, but the fact that the Knicks look okay, they're figuring out their lineup. NBA preseason is underway, and the Knicks are going to be title contenders. So in about a week or so, you're going to have me doing some preseason breakdown for the Knicks, and the fact that they are inevitably going to get my hopes up and then dash them quite expertly. We know how it'll work. So, but this is a weaker East this year. The only big Knicks talk this week is that supposedly Giannis wanted to go to the Knicks, but the Knicks don't have the picks to offer for Giannis because of the fact they traded most of them from McCall Bridges and are limited from trading other picks to do so. So I don't think you'll be seeing Giannis in a Knicks uniform anytime soon. I think the Knicks are kind of sturdy and set the way that they are. But they did win preseason. They were undefeated in Abu Dhabi. That's supposed to incite some kind of emotional reaction for me. It doesn't. But they will be doing another preseason game tomorrow night against the Minnesota Timberwolves. We've got a few preseason games coming up. We'll see. The main thing of me watching the preseason with the Knicks is just seeing the ball movement under Mike Brown and if it's going to be different. And that's we'll see. We will see. But preseason only gives us a glimpse of what's going to happen. That first third of the season is going to be the real big deal to figure out whether or not the Knicks are going to do something that excites me, or I'm just going to get mad that we didn't get Tibbs and they're going to regress like every other team that has fired Tibbs. So I'd love to see them break the curse. But right now, the point of the matter is that everything in New York sucks, actually. Like everything, like the The Mets are gone. The Yankees are gone. The Rangers stunk it up to open it up. The Islanders are an actual team. The Jets and Giants are not good. The Knicks technically don't play yet, so I mean,
and the Bills lost to the Patriots.
Yeah, those aren't really a New York team, so
they're the only team in New York.
Supported Toronto.
They would have had
they've lost. I have always supported the Bills as a New York sports team until they turned around and said, "We're rooting for the Toronto Blue Jays." Get out of here. Go to Toronto.
That makes sense.
Go across the border.
Makes sense, though. Look, I was also rooting for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, and I have shared my feelings towards you about that.
I love you too. All right. So for the sake of letting Ash watch the Oilers game uninterrupted, because I know that's what he really wants to do, we can wrap things up for the night, unless anyone's got some secret final takes that we would like to do. That Ash, do you want to give me a final take? Do you have the ability to do that, or?
Yeah, the Oilers are ahead 3-2, and Stuart Skinner is looking like the Stuart Skinner of old. On 11 shot attempts by Calgary, he's let in 2 goals. So,
bring in Campbell. Bring in Campbell.
No, we won't. We're not doing that again. I don't think they're allowed to with the with having a bought out contract like that. For some reason,
they bought him out. I didn't.
Before last year,
I thought they still had him stashed in the minors.
No, they bought out the contract because he went and played somewhere else last year. So I think under the rules of that, you're not allowed to re-sign that player.
Okay.
I don't know for sure. I'd have to look at that again, but I thought that's what I heard. Anyway,
fair enough.
Go Oilers.
Besides me complaining about Newsweek again because they're stupid, and they deserve to have my ire because of that stupid headline of Mets losing World Series champion to free agency. One thing I will say playfully is that I saw that the Knicks hired a shooting coach today, and I don't know why I thought that was funny, because I don't know if for some reason they just decided we needed a shooting coach now, and that this thought had not occurred to them before 2:54 p.m. today. It's not as a replacement. It's like, oh, okay, great job. You guys figured out that you need a coach for one of the most important parts of the game of basketball.
For the last 60 years, they've been trying to figure it out, and it was only today that they figured out that they need
to hire a shooting coach. He worked, I believe, with the Brunsons push for this. I think he was Brunson's personal shooting coach down in Dallas at the time. So that's probably why that happened that way, to give actual context to anyone listening. But I just think it's really funny that they've decided now on October 8th at 2:50 to say, we'll hire a shooting coach. We'll make that happen. Luke, as the man of the hour for coming on the podcast right as the Yankees lost, because I do respect you a lot for that, because that's obviously you could have easily been like, no, fuck you, I'm not doing this. I respect you for coming on right as the Yankees lost. What do you have for us to end the night?
No, and I respect you for giving me crap. That's only, that's a one friend to another friend. There's no actual hatred there. Just it's all love. It's all love. And I appreciate you, man. One other funny thing is, we're doing the New York Power Hour, and no one is wearing anything New York related, which just kind of exemplifies how poor it is in New York sports right now. You have your Toronto Blue Jays on. This
says Mayor of Bronx. What do you mean? Mayors of Bronx. This is a Vlad Guerrero Jr. jersey.
Right. You got your little, you got your little maple leaf. You got your little Maple Leafs background going. You got Ash with his Oilers hat and Oilers jersey, and Ronald Acuna Jr. up above him. And meanwhile, I'm wearing a Nashville Predators Star Wars night jersey, like trying to avoid New York as much as possible. But
you don't even want to live here. You don't even want to live here.
Let's just dump on New York a little bit more, and let's dump on the New York Jets a little bit more, because the last reminder of when the Jets were actually good just got worse. I mean, you go from the butt fumble to now felony charges in Indianapolis, getting into a fight with a truck driver. And it's like, to me, the most bizarre thing is it started with, oh my goodness, I hope Mark Sanchez is okay, to what the fuck is Mark Sanchez doing in Indianapolis at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting stabbed and getting into, assaulting someone. Like, I don't know. That was the big shock over the weekend. I hope he's well. But it's just such a surprise, and we'll continue to follow the story as it develops. But that was something wild from over the weekend.
I think the funniest thing for me too is that I don't know if you saw the Post article, Luke, but like former teammates came out of Lynn to be like, "That's not the Mark Sanchez I knew," and
right.
like. For me, I gotta be honest. I've followed the Jets for years. That is also not like Mark Sanchez would not. I never thought it was like, is Mark Sanchez gonna have to shank a bitch? Like, he was not Wayne Brady Mark Sanchez. This was not a like secret like gangster Mark Sanchez that was killing people. He always seemed like a pretty nice guy.
No, he was always an upstanding. He was always very courteous. I think one of my family members had met him. One of the nicest guys they've ever met. It's just such a surprise. Like, it's such a surprise. Again, like, I'm curious how this story develops. But having what did we say? You said class 5 felony charges against him. Like, it's some pretty serious stuff. Like, like, it wasn't just like a small altercation.
And he came away being stabbed. So this wasn't like I pushed the guy in the parking lot. Like, he got stabbed. He lacerated a man's face. Nick Mangold, Jets legend, was like, Mark Sanchez doesn't have an aggressive bone in his body. I've known him for 16 years. That's not the Mark Sanchez I know. But he got stabbed. He's got a felony battery. And like, if he's fully convicted, also apparently he was drunk, so like he's charged with public intoxication.
Right.
He could end up getting 6 years in jail depending on the situation. And like, we don't know. I don't want to recommend anybody see like because it's like an elderly driver. If you see the photos, you're gonna see it's not like it was like a young guy that got into a fight with. But he took the driver's knife and cut his cheek open.
Wow.
And then he says that he stabbed Sanchez in self-defense. Mark's team is obviously claiming otherwise. So like, I guess the Jets just won't stop giving us something to talk about. Even when I don't want to talk about the Jets.
Yep.
They find their way into the forefront of media, and we've got to talk about the Jets and Mark Sanchez, secret gangster.
And it's just like, you just thought the butt fumble was just like the low point, and it's gotten lower now. Like, you just didn't think it was possible and I know Peter and I talked about this 2 weeks. I know Mark Sanchez gets a lot of crap, but he was the right quarterback for New York at the time. Like,
he was, because Rex Ryan's defense allowed him to be a good game manager. And like, now I'm waiting for this case to unfold, because I've always said nice things about Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
And now if I have to, I just don't know what I'm going to do with myself if I have to sit there and think about the fact that Mark Sanchez is actually a truck driving, stabbing, over a parking spot while drunk.
He's gonna be in some federal prison getting tatted up. He's got like teardrops coming down. He's gonna come out like
The good news, though, and I'll tell you this, I'll report this here as we're closing off, is that the Cleveland Browns are actually interested in offering Mark Sanchez a quarterback contract after they found out about that news. So I just want to, I think the silver lining is that the Browns have reached out to his team and are looking to re-sign him right after they heard about that incident. So there's at least a silver lining for Mark Sanchez in that.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good. But so as we will, as our legal duty to do, we will continue to update you on the Mark Sanchez story over the weeks here at the New York Power. We'll continue to update you on the miserable and barren state of New York sports, one way or another. Peter got to call out sick this week, but don't worry, he'll be back next week when we force him to talk about negative New York sports yet again. He can't get too far away from us, but let's sign off for the evening. Speaking for myself, for the Ash who's still looking at the Oilers game, and Luke who is trying his furthest to get away from New York. We love you all. Thank you for listening. Follow us on any of our social media platforms, Twitter, YouTube preferably, thebestdamnsports.com. Find us there. We love you. Take care. Have a good night. Thanks for